Hello, what's happening? Good morning. It's 10 a.m. here in Sydney, Australia, and thanks for joining me. Thanks for joining us. This is normally something that I do just for my Patreons, and we're taking it public because I'm going to use this for the next or one of the editions of Lightning Bugs. The podcast that I've been doing. And it seemed to be creative, seems to illuminate something about creativity. And so we'll jump right in. I've got a virtual backdrop right there. My hair's all fucked up, and it's not because it's the morning, it's just the way the way it is these days. So the way we're going to do it is this. If no one knows what the hell you're watching, what this is people send in, and in this case, it's members of my Patreon page, because we all kind of know the rules now. Send in their songs, either in progress or finished, whatever, for feedback and to get some insight into maybe what's going on. When you're writing something, anything, and especially a song, you get numb to the repetition and your own thoughts about it. And the feedback is not always so much about people changing your song, but is kind of making it real so that you can get back into that state of mind that you were once in, which is the inspired state where you know that it's just going through you and reaching someone else. We start doing all this work on a song or anything that we're working on, and in the progress, we do what you call losing perspective. I don't want to go too much into exactly what's going on here, but basically this is really an informal live taping before an audience sort of thing. If I mess up, I'll do it again. Things will be edited, and then you're just sort of in on the on this part of it, and I appreciate you being here. So first thing I'm going to do is read the intro for today. By the way, you're hearing me through a mic over there. The podcast people will be hearing it through here. Some people are going to be listening to this on a podcast, don't know that I have mushrooms and an evil cat over my shoulder. They'll never see that. So we have to keep them in mind too. Anyway, okay, so let's start with this, and then I'll say hello to some of the some of my friends over here scrolling on another screen. All right, here we go. This is the intro. Hello, and welcome to a special edition of my podcast, Lightning Bugs, Conversations with me, Ben Folds. This one is a little different. It's called Songwriting Masterclass. Master in parentheses. No, master in quotes. Songwriters on any level, success or experienced, have submitted their works in progress or thoroughly cooked for some input. I will be hearing the songs for the first time, like you. We'll discuss the ins and outs of making songs. There's a lot of mystery in songs, and that's their magic. But there are nuts and bolts to the craft that are not so mysterious that help get the magic across. This is live in front of a YouTube audience who is welcome to chime in kindly, because possibly the best feedback a writer can get is from people who don't write themselves, the magic part. I'm here for the nuts and bolts stuff, so let's jump in. What's that? Do it again? Okay. Hello, and welcome to a special edition of Sorry, so sorry. Hello, and welcome to a special edition of my podcast, Lightning Bugs, Conversations with me, Ben Folds. This one is a little different. Songwriting Masterclass. Master in quotes. Songwriters of any level, success or experienced, have submitted their works in progress or thoroughly cooked for some input. There we go. That's enough of that. Just want to do that again. So, what can be said? Let's switch over. I'm doing all the tech shit myself, and you'll feel that. Okay. This is, for those of you who are in podcast world, what we're doing is we're now going to look at some lyrics. Now, I don't like to know the songs before this happens. I'd like to just give you my honest initial feedback on these, so I don't think about it too much. So we're going to turn those lyrics over in a second. But the reason that we show the lyrics is because I'm going to write down things about the form. Okay, so for those of you listening on the podcast, there are no rules to songwriting. There are expectations. There is no one kind of form, but there are forms and structures. And the way that those forms and structures play with the expectations is what propels the listener through someone's hopefully inspired thoughts. And we're not here to critique the thoughts and the intentions of the songwriter. What we're here to do is to make the songs successful. And a successful song is a song that communicates what it intended to do. So if someone intends to say, me poo-poo my pants, I like to poo-poo my pants, awesome. That's not my job to criticize that person's behavior. My job is to make sure that what they're putting down, we're able to pick up, right? And so that's why we do it. Now, when we're listening to a song, especially in this context, you open your heart. You listen to the song like a human being. You don't listen to a song as a fucking critic or a professor or an expert. You listen with your heart through your ears. If it doesn't move you, then we engage the brain to go, why is that? If you finish a song, listening to a song, and you find it's moved you to tears, well then you might want to know why, especially if you're a songwriter. You might go, why did that work so well? What worked about that? And that's when you kick your brain in. So we're going to go all brainy at first, but that's the wrong order. I want you to listen to this music for the first time with some innocence. But I'm going to be writing some notes about it, and they're real basic things, and then we'll talk about it. Okay? Okay. Let's do this. Here we go with our first one. It's called Small Town. The music and the lyrics are by Jordan Friend, who submitted this by way of my Patreon page. He says, Dear Ben, this past summer, you graciously looked at my song, Funeral for a Younger Man. I remember that. You sing your ass off, Jordan. You helped me understand my own writing more deeply, and I discovered that song was a conclusion of sorts, an act of closure for an extremely tough few years I'd survived. I started digging up fragments of writing from that time, reconstructing what I went through, as well as writing lots of new material. In February, I debuted the virtual premiere of Old Soul, an hour-long collection of songs connected by spoken story about my battle with OCD, surviving my 25th year, congratulations, and embracing the blessing of a misbehaving mind. I wanted to make sure that something that broke down mental health stigma by tackling it with humor and casual frankness. I think that's honorable. The last song you looked at closes the show. This one, Small Town, comes quite early on. It's about something I call the trapdoor fantasy. That moment so many artists have where the pressure and self-doubt gets so bad that you start imagining changing your name and moving to some farming community in France or some shit. Thanks for everything this past year. That first masterclass with you has had positive ripples in my life that I couldn't have begun to imagine at the time. Man, thank you very much, Jordan. All right, well, let's now, I'm doing all my tech. Put my password in. Okay, so let's go to the top of this and have a listen. And then I want to look at what you've said about it. Look, for those of you who haven't done this before, it takes courage to put your stuff out there. So be kind. Don't be typical internet jackass. Like be thoughtful. And okay, here we go. This is Jordan Friend, Small Town.
I think I could learn to love a small town. I'd live in a cottage of moss-covered stone. I'd cancel my checks and I'd take down my website and get real romantic about living alone. I'd fold my non-profit, I'd sell my old textbooks, set flame to the memory of futures gone by. Just me and whatever can fit in my hatchback. Set off for a place where you can't miss the sky. Am I getting accustomed to vanishing? Am I choosing a pathway to peace? Or am I giving up? In a small town, I'd start by maintaining some mystery, so the locals ask, who is that man on the hill? Then a couple weeks later, I'd sing in the tavern. Nothing ambitious, just time left to kill. Am I getting accustomed to vanishing? Am I choosing a pathway to peace? Or am I giving up? Oh, in a couple of months I'd get used to it. I'd savor the lowered cholesterol and lack of gray hair. I'd fix all the roofs on the churches, turn local celebrity, then form a committee and run to be mayor. And then I'd lose and be disgraced and get burnt out about this place. I'd long to go and stake my claim where just one person doesn't know my name. Am I choosing a pathway to peace? Or will it all be the same? I'm starting to think I just need a new city where the noise can protect me from having my way. Still, I think I could learn to love a small town, as long as I knew I could leave in a day.
Now that it's been pointed out that no one could hear what I just said. That's what happens when I'm my own tech person. Luckily, this gets edited for the podcast. Okay, what I said was this. I really love the song. And I'm reading, and I'm reading everyone's compliments. Those have all been recorded on another computer across the room, so we're good for that. But you can see your own scroll. So trust me, I was doing my job, and it picked up on the other computer, and I fucked up for you. Okay, so let's jump into the song then. Nice work, Jordan. Really, really good. Okay, a couple things about this then. So the first thing I did was I made notes on what I perceive as the form. The reason that I do that is not because I want it to conform to a specific form, okay? It's because I want to understand the patterns. Songs are all about patterns. And the reason that there is rhyme does two things. One, it establishes a pattern. And by that pattern, you set up a series of expectations that you can meet, break, buck, push back against, wear out. And these things say so much about the personality involved. Now, when you're writing a song, you don't think about that stuff that much, right? But at some point, it starts to occur to you intuitively. Okay, so let's look at Jordan's song then. Okay. I just, identified the first chords of the song, as you do, as an introduction. And the length of the introduction is kind of significant to the way we listen to a song. This one is pretty conventional. He's playing chords that are in the verse. So he's setting up he's setting up a riff so that and pedaling that so that we can jump on board and not be thrown off. Okay, so it's a kind introduction, right? So then his melody is, I put A, down. Okay, the reason I did that was because he is repeating the same melody, and he's delivering us sort of the story in the poem that way. What that sort of tells me is that my ear is not supposed to go jumping all over hell and half of Georgia with gymnastics. He wants me to hear what he's saying, and it's folk music at that point. Okay, so that's not something I'm thinking about consciously at the time, but I'm just along for the ride. So just keep that in mind. His language, a cottage of moss-covered stone. Well, he's not American, I can tell you that. If he was thinking of living in a small town in America, he'd be living out by Fairview near the mall, near Old Sewell School Road, where there's a Walmart. So he's not. He's setting up, where he is. So far, this is bearing out to be kind of theatrical as well, right? The storytelling is theatrical. So my expectation is not currently that we're going to hit a massive chorus, okay? He says, I think we could learn to love in a small town. A lot of songs about small towns, so that's fine, Okay, so then he takes the dynamic up one notch for his second verse, and he starts to let the story unfold a little bit more. He'd fold his nonprofit, and that's an awesome informal mention. It's cool. It's not stuffy. His nonprofit. I think that's fun. Sells old textbooks. Okay, well, no one has their old textbooks if they're 75 still, so it gives us an idea of the age. Set flame to the memories of futures gone by. Awesome. That's a great image. He's dreaming of the future. And this is all becoming a dream, right? It's like he is dreaming a story. So he's not telling you a story of something in the past. He's telling you a story of something in the future. That's aspiration. And that's interesting and compels us into the future. Still, he hasn't changed really any melody at all. Okay, a hatchback. I dig it. Set off a place where you can't miss the sky. Okay, well, he's sick of the city. Now, I'm not going to keep going through all this stuff, but I just wanted to start slowly with how Jordan is getting us into the story. Because I think where that makes a difference to me is now what is the intention of the song? Now, I'm not talking about whether or not I was moved, because I was moved, and I think it's really cool. This is his chorus. And it's not, if his intention is to write a hit song, Jordan, my friend, you missed the boat. This is not like a chorus. However, if he's standing in the middle of a stage and this song is propelling a narrative, then its job is to make him a different person when we finish in a different time than we were when he began. So as an audience, if he's standing on stage and this is a show, and I have good reason to believe that's what it is, he told us, but he's also telling us with the expectations he's setting up as a song. Okay, but we'll start with the first stone to look under. Now, I call these stones to look under. They're not suggestions. I don't want to write the song with you. And sometimes a stone to look under is something to notice because it's working really well. Sometimes it's because maybe it's not working as well as it could. I don't know which this is. But there is something to look into in this chorus, in my opinion. And that is, there's not really a hook to the chorus, except that he's repeating it. And really, when you start to repeat something, you are creating a hook because the pattern itself becomes a hook. But just played by itself, I wouldn't call this a big hook. But it's delivering the idea. And I feel it's working on that level. Now, am I just giving up? When I first heard, am I just giving up? I thought, am I just giving up what? And I think that's the stone to look under, Jordan. It's, am I giving up? What you mean there is, am I surrendering? Or do you mean, am I just giving up something that I would like to actually have? And I think that the language of that, there may be something under it. Maybe all it is that you repeat, am I just giving up? Or maybe you phrase it so that someone is compelled to do what I did, which is to go one step further and go, you can't make two choices at the same time. And ultimately, that's where this song is going. And that's beautiful for everybody. You can't choose two realities at once. This man wants to go and live a new life because the young man is sick of the city and sick of the pressure and sick of worrying about his future, wants out of it, wants out of the pressure cooker. But what is he giving up? Okay? So we continue. So Jordan, what I'm saying is for you to look under is that chorus. Do you want that to just stop at the stage and you leave it on the stage, or do you want it to go a little bit further? And that's up to you. I'm not critiquing that as a good or bad thing. I'm just saying if we're calling it a pop song, it's a little slack. If it's on stage and you're moving people to the end, they're captive, and you're moving them to the end, it's more than it's great. Okay. So then he continues on his story, his imaginary story. The locals ask, "Who is that man on the hill?" I love it. He's on the hill. Like, that's where he imagines being, is like getting the highest property so he doesn't flood. Nothing ambitious, just time to kill. And then he repeats the chorus again. And again, I ask here on my page, I said, giving up what? I wondered. The bridge. Bridge is awesome. A bridge is the part of the song, if you choose, if you feel like you need to take us somewhere else to get us to the next chorus, we put in what's called a bridge. Some people call it B-section, and it's all kinds of other things, ways to look at it. I consider it a bridge because I think it's again, the third chorus of a song, if you have three choruses in a song, should probably find you on different footing as a different person. And often the way to get there is the bridge. And the bridge can be an aside, breaking down that extra wall, a moment of honesty, a moment of dishonesty, a different perspective, a way of looking at something. It's not just there just to be there. And if you don't need a bridge, don't do it. In this case, he's developed the shit out of his bridge. And on the podcast, we may play these parts again. But I wrote development down here because it really started to develop in a classical way, meaning he stopped going da-da-da-da-da-da, predictable, almost iambic pentameter couplets. He started taking off into less predictable territory. That's ever so ear-catching because he set up expectations that we are going to keep going. There once was a man from Nantucket. Like, he's going to keep going on his rhyme scheme A, B, A, B, A, B, or in his case, A, 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 B. And he takes off. It soars. Jordan, man, can I borrow your pipes for a second? That's beautiful singing. His third chorus, very interesting. He's given up the line. He's given up the line about giving up. That's not in there anymore. Now he's saying, or will it all be the same? That's a stone to look under too. Now, why did you do that? I mean, it might be great, but it's a move. So back up and ask yourself, have you really used that chorus tag of giving up? Because it's very poetic. Now the last verse is classic. I dig it. And I just want to read it aloud because I think it's great. I'm starting to think I just need a new city where the noise can protect me from having my way. Boy, is that telling. See, there's so much packed into that. He doesn't have to explain who he is. What is his way? It could be pretty sordid, you know? And we all can identify with that. Like, it's awesomely kind of mysterious and private. He thinks he could still learn to love a small town as long as he could leave in a day. And that's what my point is about giving up. It's like, okay, it's as long as he can be a tourist. And then that says so much about people who do live in small towns, says so much about our perception of what's on the other side of the fence. The grass is greener. He's thought it through. He lived there in his mind in the future and went somewhere. So this dude is a changed fellow, and he has pulled all of that off. And Jordan, I think the only real stone to look under is that. I'll also say that as just a little move, and we've talked about this move before, I'm calling these entire verses, you see. Sorry, it's probably confusing here. What a lot of people might call verse 1 before the chorus, I'm actually calling that verse 1 and verse 2. That's helpful for me to understand what's going on. Everyone can look at it a different way. I think when you get to verse 3, you might think of changing a chord but leaving the same melody. And it's a trick called, well, people call it reharmonization. It's really not quite what that is, but just a redefinition for the punters who don't write. The chord beneath it is like the floor or the context. So I just want to put him in slightly different scenery. Like next time, I might do this in front of a Russian gym instead of a mushroom field of mushrooms, my backdrop behind me. I'm asking Jordan to consider changing his chord and changing his scenery just for a second to propel some momentum. Okay, let's go to the next song after I get some comments from the Peanut Gallery. Let's see here. God damn all this tech. But it's all working, right? Everybody hates a tourist summer, Benton Nickerson. That's true. Ye old reharm saved me before. Yes, Jordan. That's from Jordan Friend. Schemata from Karen D. Yes, and now people are quoting my summoning of Pulp's song, Common People. White Knight's movie set. Okay, well, let's move right along here. That took longer than I would like to, but the reason is I feel that there's a lot of people that could be listening that need a little bit more context, and some of the Patreons have heard this stuff before, some of these concepts. So I'm sort of saying too much in leaning on my friend Derek to edit the fuck out of this, right? Especially the fuck that I said. I want that edited out. Okay, let's go to the next song. Another thing people maybe, and look, feel free to give Jordan your feedback. It doesn't have to be positive. He's big grown up. He's done this before. Just be kind. It sucks. It's not a critique of something. That's armchair bullshit. And no one's doing that, by the way. Like, everyone's being kind. But I'm encouraging you to say, hey, I didn't understand that. Or I really like that, but I wasn't moved by that. That's helpful to Jordan. He can take it. He's very good. Okay. So moving right along here, the next one. And by the way, a big part of songs in our era is the production and the recording. And where it's important, I'll bring it up. But I would prefer to stick with the nuts and bolts, the bones of the song, okay? So you're welcome to talk shop about the sound if you want to, or the production, or you could add drums and the symphony and stuff. That's totally cool. I'm considering this all being bare bones. Even if someone sends me a symphony, I ain't going to listen to the orchestration. I'm going to listen to the melody. Okay, here's the next one. It is called Nothing at All by Lisa Abbott, also known as Lisa A. She doesn't have any kind of essay for us to begin with. You can see the lyrics right there for those of you at home, listening on your headphones or driving in a car, the podcast people. What we're seeing is a fairly succinct score, or a fairly succinct set of lyrics here. It's pretty bare bone, and honestly, that does tell you something before you even hear it, right? It doesn't tell you everything. But when I look at that, I wonder, is there a lot of instrumental between there? Or is she just being really economical? Or maybe it's a really slow song where the lyrics come at you really slowly. On that tip, the reason that Hamilton is brilliant, besides the fact that it's brilliant, is because they can spit so many bullets and syllables that they can get across a lot of information at once. But what makes a ballad sometimes brilliant is that it only has a few words. So let's look at this. I've got to press play here. Everyone pray for me. God of tech. I'll probably mute myself when I come back. I'm sorry, just tell me. The old man will turn off the mute button. I'm not a cat.
Your eyes are cold when they meet mine. I never noticed the light decline. Your heart is wandering out of my frame. Why should I hold you if you're on your way? But it's hard to swallow, it's hard to breathe. I find in the silence there is no relief, and I really can't tell how it is that you feel. Maybe it's nothing at all. Now that I think on it, it's not from the blue. What was I seeing when I looked at you? And it's hard to swallow, it's hard to breathe, and I find in the silence there is no relief. I really can't tell how it is that you feel. Maybe it's nothing at all. If I take it all back, would you take it all back? Just how far back? 'Cause 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 who painted the version of you that I love best. You gave me some fragments, I added the rest. Now it's hard to swallow, it's hard to breathe. I find in the silence there is no release, and I really can't tell how it is that you feel. Maybe it's nothing at all. I'm scared that it's nothing at all. Just don't let it be nothing at all.
That's great. Lisa, so good. Such good stuff. I mean, I almost feel like an ass breaking the spell and breaking it down and talk about it. And that's the way I feel about music in general. I don't... We jump into creating things like songs, and we, in the process, numb ourselves sometimes and take away a little bit of the joy we used to have about it because we have to put it under the microscope. And I'm a hard audience in that way, and I was moved while I wrote. So you could just leave it at that, but let's look at it because it's interesting to do it. Okay. Couple notes here. One, when I hear someone who sings that well, I start to get harder on them because I suspect that I'm being manipulated by a great voice. And that comes from someone with a career of thinking I have almost no voice and that I need to work super hard in order to make a song airtight. So jealously, when I heard Jeff Buckley the first time, I was like, oh, come on. You don't have to write a song. All you have to do is open your mouth and you're great. So I was hard on his songs. Turned out he's a great songwriter. Same with Lisa. So they've got it all. Here we go. The intro, Lisa, whether you realize it or not, the intro wasn't clearly a waltz to me. And I love that because it took me a second to get my footing. And when we talk about expectations, where you're seated, what's going to happen next, that's all we got in the song. The song's 3.5, 4 minutes long. They hit the chorus, they hit a couple other things. We all know what's going on. It's hard to fool people, but we love to be fooled. We love to be surprised. And some of you might have not lost your footing, but I was like, whoa, what time signature is this bitch in? And it was a waltz, and I love waltzes, so we're good. Okay. So she's setting up a story, and she's immediately poetic and almost kind of not rude double entendres. Look at this. These are effective. They have an effect on our hearts. Your eyes are cold when they meet mine. Great. That's a song. You're allowed to just say it. She just said it, and that's it. Her next line is, your heart is wandering out of my frame. Out of my frame. Does that mean it's into someone else's frame? It's not out of the frame. And I don't know if that's significant or not, but these things are important to me. And it's also follows, I never noticed the light decline. Okay, well, I mean, look, I just play piano and write songs, but these things I never noticed. Well, first of all, that tells a story where she is taking her character, let's not assume this is her character is taking some of the blame. And that's real important if you're going to start talking about someone else, that you allow yourself to be accountable. That allows for some empathy. That shit's important, believe me. The light decline. Light is, of course, light. Like my motherfucking ring lights up here. And it's also, a light decline of small... I know, second grade poetry, but with music, it starts to make you feel something. because never noticed the light decline. I mean, some of it's kind of like the eyes were averted. I feel that in it, like your eyes are cold when they're in mine. I never noticed the light decline. The decline of the relationship, maybe the decline of the eyes not looking, and darkness. And she doesn't have to have meant all that. It's just when you start swinging with words that make you feel, whether you know it or not, they're probably having, and everyone else is got different associations. So, it's hard to swallow. The reality is hard to swallow. But when she says it's hard to breathe, oh man, she's really messed up about this. Like that I've really felt that. It's like, but it's hard to swallow. It's like, it's hard to swallow that bullshit you do, That's hard. That shit's hard to swallow. But it's also when it's hard to breathe, it's like, and I know you know this and you picked it up. But take note, because when people are writing songs, they don't do these basic poetic things, and they try to explain too much. Poetry is ambiguously specific. That's what you want in a song, is specific ambiguity. You want something that seems specific, that is actually throwing a very wide net, that then again creates, after you unzip it, creates something very specific to each separate listener. Imagine if you'd had asthma before, or if you'd had panic attacks. You would hear this differently. Maybe when she says hard to swallow, you might know already. Okay, I'm going to move through this quicker now. Maybe it's nothing at all. Brah, you killed it. I love that. Maybe, oh man, that's just so good. It's just direct. It's direct and good. Okay, now here's the reason I underlined, for those of you with headphones on, I really don't know how it is that you feel. And I thought, she's going to repeat this probably 3 times if she goes by form like I expect her to. Maybe a stone you look under is how to change this person in the chorus, as there are other things besides feeling. There's wanting, expecting, think. There's other things that she doesn't know at this point. And the reason that might come in handy is not so much to sit and make a list like, I don't know how it is that you feel. I don't know what it is you want. It's not to make the list. But if, Lisa, you wanted to move the chorus a little bit, a stone to look under is that moment right there about how you feel. The reason is because when you change it a little bit in the next chorus, that reestablishes and breaks down patterns. It's the same as reharmonizing a chord. It's the same circumstance, but I just opened another door and things are a little different. Little more about the form than the content. I'm not suggesting your content here. Another thing that I want you to notice that she did right is that when she hit the second verse is half as long. Don't bore us, get to the chorus. And this is really, really effective in this song, because your expectation is that she's going to sing it 4 times, 4 lines, and she does it 2. I know I'm talking a million miles an hour. Derek, I'm sorry. He's going to be editing me on this, but I want you to understand, so I'm just going for it, right? If I take it all back, would you take it all back? Beautiful. And the bridge is well written, and that it's taken us somewhere different. It's still melodic. It doesn't sound like a B-side of the song. It doesn't sound like a throwaway. It's well done. She knows what she's doing. Now, maybe you look under this stone, Lisa Abbott. Just how far back would we go? I know that means something to you, and I know you feel it, and you got a beautiful voice, so you get to just keep singing like that. Not dead sure. Sometimes I'm not dead sure about something, and it ends up being my favorite thing. But maybe a stone to look under is, do you just cut that? Do you really need do you need to milk that moment? You might. I may be wrong. But you might just want to say, if I take it all back, would you take it all back? Twice like you did. I like the little ooh before you sang who. That was cool. Just something to think about and look under. She finishes with, and I'm more lyric conscious on this show than we normally are on Patreon because I feel the audience is wider. So, who painted the version of you that I loved best? You gave me some fragments, I added the rest. Well, there's our fair, empathetic, courageous songwriter by showing that the street goes both ways. And I'm telling you, man, so many people write songs that are just finger wagging, and it is difficult to take the other person into account and not to just give them a laundry list. So keep that in mind when you're writing songs or even just when you're communicating with people in general. Lisa, A for A and A for Abbott too. Slayed that one. I'm telling you, man, my patrons write good songs. Thank you. I'm going to look at the scroll here for a second and see what's going on over there. Yeah, and all we're getting is like people love it because guess what? It's a really good song. And you know, people may disagree with my suggesting possibly truncating the bridge, and that's, man, 20 great songwriters would take this completely different directions, and I don't want to do that. I just want to show that what we do is we hang on as long as we can to the song. Now, there's writing fast and there's inspiration, and that absolutely, if you can write a song in 3.5 minutes as it comes out, that's absolutely fantastic, and you should. But sometimes it's good to hang on to it for a little longer if you can stand it, and consider the stones that maybe you should look under. And, you know, someone like Bob Dylan, he'll say, you know, I just wrote them as fast as they came out. Well, listen to them now. He wrote songs a long time ago that he was like, yeah, I just did that in a second. I released it and let it go. Well, one, we're finding out historically he might not have really done it that way. He recorded multiple versions of all this, as you can hear in the bootlegs. And he also, later on, takes a lot of liberties with it down the track. So when you hear someone say, just do it, let it out, don't think about it, you know, check under the hood. Okay, here's the next one, and I already love it because, look, I know you can't see this at home, but he's got a picture, and it's such a good picture, and it's basketball, and whoever this is, I love Connor O'Brien already. Connor O'Brien. Let's see what he is up to because this ain't normal. And I love not normal. Former NBA, so I'm reading from basically kind of across the desk because I'm trying to keep everything in frame. So I'm going blind trying to do this. Former NBA center, words and music by Connor O'Brien. A little context. For years, I've had a project with several good songwriting friends where we decide on a prompt for a song, and then we all have to write a song that's somehow connected to that prompt, later coming together to listen to each person's new song and discuss. Man, I love that. This song was my submission for the prompt Bad Examples. It's for the prompt Bad Examples. And he's got a picture of basketball players, and it's a fairly awkward photograph, and there are a lot of words. So either he's spitting bullets or this is a long song. We'll see. But it's definitely interesting. Writing songs with your friends like this to prompts is not such a bad exercise. I mean, if that ain't your speed and you think that's corny and you smoke a joint, you write your song about something deep and you move on, that's fine too, but don't judge this, because staying busy writing songs and having to write in ways that you wouldn't expect is very good, and it leads to what I suspect is not the kind of song that most people would write. Okay, well let's look at what Connor O'Brien has done, or let's listen to it. Folds is going to mute his shit get Lisa's track out of the way, open up Former NBA Center. That's the name of the song, Former NBA Center. I can love that. I already love it. I don't care if the song sucks. It's great.
There's a giant of a man named Will Purdue, just 2 inches short, 7'2". You won't find his name in any Hall of Fame, but in the early 90s, for 13 minutes each game, he was a backup big man for the Chicago Bulls. I've been going through his stats, cause I'd really like to know why the Spurs traded for him back in 1995. Will teach me your ways, teach me how to survive. Will Purdue, you're a champion, like a tomato's a fruit. Somehow traded straight up for Dennis Rodman. 4 years go by, you get to ring again. Will Purdue, I wanna be like you. So kick back and relax, you've earned it, Will. You fought through 13 long seasons with such a meager set of skills. You all spanked the Pistons so hard they sucked for 10 years. You hit one single three-pointer in your entire career against Seattle in December 91. Without your 13 points, the Bulls wouldn't have won. But wait, Basketball References wins over replacement gives you a negative rating. You had a hell of an agent, Will. You're like the blue, blue sky, reflecting and refracting better lights nearby. Will Purdue, you played your cards right. 22 million career earnings of 4.7 points a night. Will Purdue, I wanna be like you. The game marches on. We may have forgotten Will, but he has as many rings as LeBron. There's nothing here to learn, there's nothing we can do. If you're hearing this song, you're as tall as Will Purdue. This is a template that no one else can use. This is a path I would kill to choose. Punched by Michael Jordan, coached by Phil Jackson and Pop. Millionaire and family man, couldn't get free throws to drop. Extraordinary and unremarkable too. Former NBA center, Will Purdue.
Right on. And that was Will Purdue. Okay. Yeah, I liked it as much as I expected. And it's funny. Okay, well, this is complicated because it's a... from the first jump in, it's a relatively friendly sounding song. And I feel like it's kind of in a way from my era. That is the language of it I get. I'm never ever someone who wants to say referentially what something sounds like, because I wouldn't mean that it sounded like something. Just giving it context, and people do that, but I try not to, by the way. And that's not to say this sounds like anything specific. It just is familiar to my era, right? So it kind of moves a couple of old Folds heartstrings there, because he's kind of doing a throwback in a way. All right, well, let's look at it then. When I say that it's friendly, look, there's a lot of major chords in this song, and for those of you who don't know what a major chord is, it's the happy chord, and it comes in peace. And despite it coming in peace, he doesn't really come in peace. I mean, it's not the nicest song in the world, but it ain't mean. It's really not. I think what the song does is both celebrate success and failure at success. Because it's so easy for us as punters to point up to someone who's the guy played in the NBA, like he says, and I'll get to the form in a second, but he's coached by Phil Jackson and Pop. These are legends. I mean, that's awesome. He got punched by Michael Jordan. Didn't know that. I used to go see basketball games all the time. You wouldn't think it, but I'm a big fan. I don't really know Will Perdue all that well personally, but no, it's like he's so the song is, when we write a song about something, and maybe I won't jump into the form as much of this one. It's actually kind of all over the place, but I actually think it's a good thing in this case, right? But I do want to point that out, but. To just go in a little more of a helicopter than we have been going, and look at it from a little more of a broad view. If someone says, write a song about success or write a song about ambition, the song is probably not, there once was a man who was ambitious, or it's probably not, I want to be successful, or the problem with success is. Like, you don't state these things. As I said, it's specific ambiguity. He's taken a very folk song approach where it allows it to feel very repetitive, and it's not. His second chorus, I almost mistook for a bridge. As you can see, I scratched bridge out. Because he didn't start the first chorus out with, you're like the blue, blue sky. He started out with Will Perdue. See that? And yet he tags it with Will Perdue. Okay. As a cadence, that's very significant. And the reason is, and it's the reason that I was writing A's and B's down on one before. This one was throwing me off so much, I stopped writing these things. I was just like listening to it. Then I Googled Will Perdue while I was listening. And then I Googled moments, and I'll tell you why in a second. Yeah, right. So what he's doing here is he's taking a very folk song approach. And I think that what I mean by folk song approach is it has the appearance of just strummy, tell the story where it goes. Getting the point across is the most important thing. You can tell that immediately. He's wordy. He's come in peace in a major key, maybe, with a strummy. And he's allowed to skip some form things the same way as an old Appalachian song would be allowed to skip beats. It's by necessity to communicate. So the expectation that's set up is this guy needs us to listen very carefully to each word, and we do, or we'll jump to some crazy conclusions and not understand what he's talking about. But Connor's pretty deep. So if you see that, then what's happening here is he opens the first chorus with Will Perdue, right? And I want to be like you. He tags it with Will Perdue, I want to be like you. What can I say except that what I thought I would put my left foot on, my right foot went to instead. Okay, you'd have to listen to it a couple times to see why it did that to me. But when you're writing a song, anytime you screw with the pattern or screw with the words, which is actually more what he did than screw with the pattern, and it's a chorus like that, you're changing the expectations, which is what I talked about with Lisa's thing a little bit. I hope that makes sense. I feel it wasn't articulate. Derek, would you edit that? There's nothing here to learn. There's nothing we can do. If you're hearing the song, you're not as tall as Will Perdue. I mean, it's kind of mean. I mean, it's kind of saying that the only reason that he got to play ball professionally was hey, you're a tall guy, come play. And maybe that's true. But I think he celebrates it after that. And I'm feeling it. And I'm actually feeling a little bit of love for Mr. Perdue. I don't know if Mr. Perdue would want to hear this or not, and I would point this out too, that when you write a song and you're referencing somebody, this happened to me, and then you get kind of famous, you might meet the guy, and you're Conor O'Brien, you're not as tall as Will Perdue, so to the extent that I think it is empathetic and kind, yeah, songs are real in their communication and they go out there. Maybe just think about that too. Right. All in all, I love the song as much as I thought I would, yeah. Let me check your comments now. We're going further over time than I wanted to, but that's. You know, Lil Spiral says, I think Will Perdue should hear this, and will probably. Awesome. Well, I mean, you might love it. You never know. I mean, I think it was Joe DiMaggio that got really upset with his name being used by Paul Simon, if I'm not mistaken. And the reason I brought up Momus was because you might want to listen to this song called Stars Forever by Momus. It's one of my favorites. I love the record. It's a little bit of an exercise the way Conor O'Brien was doing. Basically, he got himself in some legal trouble. Momus is I think he's English. And he got himself in trouble with a politician, I believe. And ended up having to go to court. And like most respectable indie rock musicians, he didn't have enough money to go up against a politician in court. So he put out basically a open letter to people, especially in the music business, that said, if you give me a certain amount of money to support my bills, I'll write a song with your name in it. And it was awesome because he took all of these people's names and he made them into songs. And this is kind of like that. And the result is fascinating because a lot of them aren't even that flattering. It's like someone paid however much they paid, $200 or $1,000 or $500, who knows how much it was. This is like 1999-ish. And then he took it and turned it into a song. And they were all so imaginative and different. It's kind of a cool exercise. I think there might have been 50 songs on a double record. I can't remember, 40, something like that. Momus, Stars Forever. You might want to check it out. It starts strong and it ends strong. It's a great record. Let's move right along then. By the way, one of these things, and this is going to be news to you songwriters who submitted your stuff. We're going to get in touch with you, and I'm going to talk with you about these. And I want you to be frank with me. Did I give you shitty advice, or did I miss it? Did you learn something from it? How do you think about it? It gives you a chance to talk back. We're all going to get on a basic Zoom kind of chat, and we're going to edit this in here. Okay, moving right along. These are familiar names to me because these are my patrons, and we do this quite often, or we used to do it more often than now. This is Jenny Stabus. I believe it's Stabus. I've mispronounced her name now for a year. It's called Watch the Sea. Let's see what we've got. Understand that I don't know these songs. My wish is to be able to hear them completely innocently, but to tell you the truth, I did have to listen just enough to put them into my program so that they would all be level balanced and you'd hear it because I'm my own tech guy. So I heard little bits and pieces around the edges because I don't want to lie to you. I've heard bits and pieces, but I haven't listened to the songs, haven't looked at the lyrics straight through. And most of the time I would prefer just to just shoot from the hip and also shoot straight data. Okay, here we go. Let's listen to Jenny Stabus, Watch the Sea. Yenny. Is it really? Is it really, or someone fucking with me? Not Jenny, Ben. It's Yenny? Okay, well, listen, we can edit this in. This is Yenny Stabus, Watch the Sea. And if you're fucking with me, Bent Double. Okay.
Watch the sea, Benjamin. It comes in fast. It makes a fist and knocks you out. You suppose that this time's the last. This is no place for doubt. Watch the sea, Benjamin. I will not rescue you. You don't speak, don't even look at me. I'm on the shore pleading. Can you feel anything at all?
Neat. Neat. Am I on? Okay. So I have to press stop. Let's dig into this. So, talked about expectations. By the way, this is a utterly opposite direction of a really kind of specific sounding song that we heard about Will Perdue, and really kind of modern informality. There are more different kinds of songs. There's as many different kinds of songs as there are people. And what's wonderful about that is the getting to just drift off into the world of someone. You're allowed to do anything you want in a song if it's working. There's no rules to it. Look, I could criticize this for having long instrumental bits in the middle. But then what am I going to criticize Beethoven? He had some long instrumental bits in the middle too. And jazz. There's a song in this, and the song is tied to a composition. The composition has a sort of a freedom about it that is not so much composition as just a landscape. A lot of times I think of songs, none of them exist in a bubble. And so you're making references over here, and I think the references are valid. I don't make the references so much because I think it's a lazy way for me to dissect a song. But they are important for the way that we hear music, because I've always kind of thought of songs as entering a chat forum. All these other forum chat posts have happened. You know, sometimes you'll see a post and it's from like 2013, then the next person is 2020, and they come in and for some reason they saw a video and they kick in and they say something too. It continues the conversation. I feel like this is a conversation where someone has, Jenny or Jenny, has picked up on an old thread. And that's interesting in and of itself. The imagery, the style of references are of another era or a century or so. And that puts you in a world, you know? Now let's just look at the cadential choices here. Benjamin, which I said is a good name. You know, there are better, but that's a fairly reasonable name. I know some people who shorten it some. Benny is terrible. Benji is out of the fucking question. No, but the reason I underlined it is because it's a sound that sets a pattern. And it's also, you know, it's specific. And you know I like to use names in songs. And the specificity of it I just find interesting. Adds mystery to it. Makes you try to imagine a character. But in this case, more than that, I am interested because if you go back and listen to it, you could probably tell us, Bent Double joked that this was in 14-1 time or something like that. You might notice that Benjamin falls on a different part of the cadence and bar as it does the first time. And, you know, something to be aware of when you're writing a song, the patterns you set up. So we talked about the patterns a little earlier in Lisa A's song, in the setting up of, and in Jordan Friends, in the setting up of kind of typical patterns so that you can break them. She set up an atypical pattern, and it hits me more as a cadence. It's like if you say something and you're like, you walk out the door and you're like, you might say something like, I'm tired of this place. Everything's a mess. I hate working here and I think this is horrible. I'm walking out the door. I'm tired of this place. Now, when you say I'm tired of this place, then as you walk out the door, it has a different feel because it's a different part of the rhythm. Real basic stuff. But when we're writing a song, really play with that stuff because it plays with your feelings and your heart and the way you're moving, and there's imagery of the sea and stuff. That's verse 1. Verse 2, and look, this is opposite of Hamilton. We talked about this. It's like slowly, she's setting up an expectation now that by the time we get to these middle bits here, she's told us, people, I might just take my time, light up a big fat joint, and go all night long. And I'm cool with that because it's an expectation that she's set up. And it's also her instrumental stuff is drilled into the DNA of the song itself. They aren't incidental chords. It's already quite well set up in the song. Now, she doesn't need it to make it a good song or a bad song. She does not need that. But that's her prerogative. It's her art and her song, and she has explained it well to me. Like, I'm not surprised that suddenly it happens out of nowhere. So I think it's a beautiful song. I love the mystery in it, the imagery, where I get to go. Songs don't always have to explain themselves completely, and I love that about it. It is pretty simply 2 verses, and the verses are sort of folk chorus verses. So we'll just call them chorus verse. It's the same thing. And then, she has sort of a bridge, which I'll tie in with the eroding cliffs, and then a last verse chorus. So I can justify this. And the reason I like to justify them is because I want, when I'm working on a song, to set up a pattern. Now, Jenny, what stones are there to look at? I think it's just to be aware of sort of what you've decided your form is. Maybe you look at making a short version of this and you play with a chorus. Personally, I think that'd probably screw it up, but I don't see any reason why not to play with that. You've got the song as it is, and you must feel good enough about it for us to hear, but you also may wonder if there's something you can do with it. Well, maybe the peanut gallery can give you some other suggestions of where to go. But I think the most obvious suggestion is to eliminate the instrumental for a while, or some of it. Ask yourself, is the journey still complete without that? And is there something I can do in terms of a chorus, sort of a radio edit? And I think you'll probably tell yourself, nah, it's where it is. But it's something to think about. Worst case scenario, you write a chorus for this song and you go, doesn't work in that song, but damn, that's a good chorus. I think I'm going to use it for my next song. So we're always moving, we're always writing, we're always trying stuff. Everyone doesn't have to hear it as it goes along. And there is our goddamn live scroll show. Thanks to the people who joined, and we'll edit this down. I'm going to take I'm on a little bit of a delay so that we have some quality here. Let me look at your questions and see if I see anything worth diving into that we can edit into the podcast. Disposable Justice says, I'm attempting to write a song now. It's like a cross between Nine Inch Nails and Black Sabbath. It's a lot of fun to be able to do it side by side with you, Ben. Awesome. And start thinking about what Disposable Justice has to improve on. Like the references, totally fine. I'm not judging it, but I want to train us off that being a first go-to, right? So when you're saying it's cross between Nine Inch Nails and Black Sabbath, fine. Now put that aside. What does Disposable Justice want to say? And next time that Nine Inch Nails decides to make a record, maybe they'll be like, it's a combination of Disposable Justice and Black Sabbath. And I'm not saying that you're not being you. I'm just saying, we'll take that crutch away after a while, okay? Ben Double, I don't have a question or a criticism. Awesome. People are thanking the contributors. I thank the contributors too. Karen D says, tell us more about the form you speak of. What is your starting point? My starting point is, and I kind of think it's a good starting point for anybody, is inspiration. That is the tingle, spark that you're like, this is a feeling, and it comes with, I'm seeing a couple of notes and feeling a vibe, and I'm got a little phrase, something. It's on the tip of my brain, it's on the tip of my heart. That's the starting point. Next, you want to get that off your chest. And if going to the bar and telling your friend is the way you get it off your chest, awesome. If going to the bar and telling a friend your feeling, what's going on, ends up posing more questions than it did answers, or doesn't completely explain or satisfy, maybe you're getting a song, you know? Like, because sometimes you got a thing and it means a lot to you. Is it a song? I don't know. Go tell a friend at the bar or, at church or in a mushroom forest. And, see if it's just something you feel or if it's a song. And if it starts to become a song, then my next thing is putting down those points like on a piece of paper, like the bits of lyrics, what it seems like they might be. I play around with it then on the piano. I might walk, think about it a little bit more. Just start to churn out the things that are just coming. And if you hit that point of inspiration where your brain is sort of at default state and you're like, oh, now I'm feeling it, just write it. I just write it all over the place. I don't think about form at all. I don't think about form at that point. Where I start to think about form is where I stall. And then I've got all these words on a paper and I haven't been judging them. And I've got all these chords on the piano and I haven't been judging them. I've just been going. Then I start to want to knock it into form. Part of that is because I want to see how far I am. I mean, like, sometimes you'll find you have a couple of lines of a verse, a melody, and you have lines of a verse, meaning melodic lines. And you find you can just write 1,000 lyrics for that section of the verse. Like you're going blah, 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 yet, da, 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 da. For the blah, 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 you've got so much stuff. For the yet, da, 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 on the last part, nothing. You don't have anything there. For some reason, that's not moving. And you start to see these things and you're like, okay, does that mean that's a stone to look under? Is that something I'm supposed to follow? Or does that mean I should throw it away? And God damn, you go into the weeds then. But what I keep as my compass is a piece of paper with what I think the form is becoming. Because I kind of want to know that there's light at the end of the tunnel. Like, look, folks, all you got to do is knock out 3 or 4 more lines and you're actually halfway to finishing your song. I like to know that because if you don't start writing it down, you don't know. But I don't want the form to boss me around. So the form is there for when you stall. I'm going to look at a couple more. Julie Baldwin, do you have the same song feedback process on your own songs as you're writing them, or is that part of your prep work? Do you have the same song feedback process? Well, I don't put them on this show because I'm not as brave as the rest of you, and I also don't want, it's expectations again. I would say that my process is pretty much a mess, and it's different each time. And I try to organize that mess with some form. And when I can't sit inside that form anymore, when I want to break out, then I do. But I try to find a new form and a justification for it because of patterns. Ragtag says, hi, Ben. I've got a musician friend who likes editing his work as he goes along in bits and pieces rather than making an entire first draft and editing it down from there. Any benefits to this approach? Well, I think there are. What he's working with then are more refined pieces. But On the downside, it's slowing them down, and it could introduce judgment. Our inner editor is a bit of a judger. That's their job. Our inner editor is supposed to judge what's worthy and what's not, and is it in the right order? All that intellectual nonsense that we've been going through today. The problem with that is, of course, that you've been, as some of my patrons have said, you write drunk and you edit sober. Maybe. You write with no judgment and you edit with a lot of judgment. So if I'm going to bring that guy in and edit me a lot at the top and in the middle, that might slow me down, and it might also introduce some kind of fear and judgment that don't need to be there. But if that's working for dude, then, like I say, there's no rules, take it away. But if your friend finds that they're frustrated, double and triple questioning things that needn't be questioned so early, stay creative and innocent as long as you can. And then take that experience and start using the tools that I'm showing you. Use tools that I don't know about that you use. Use everything you got and scrap as long as you can. That's what I say. Write angry and edit calm. Awesome. Hey Ben, do you see any issue in creating an album? What do you mean for me? I mean, albums are, I don't know. I think that's supposed to be a funny question. No, I think it's cool. Or you can make singles. Shitty first drafts are part of the journey. You know, Lori Shen says that. Shitty first drafts are part of the journey. They certainly usually are. And you know, the thing is there could be a perfect song out there that does write itself as quickly as the song comes out. And that would be very special. And I have improvised and freestyle songs before, and there is a perfection to that, even if the song sucks. Little Spiral says, words of wisdom, when you write for quantity, the quality magically shows up. That does happen a whole lot. It's really true. And there are these contradictions in songwriting that you'll find all the time, which is what makes these discussions even trickier. Wonder how your new album is coming along. It's not, Sarah Malley. A producer friend of mine told me recently, stop fucking around with that podcast and make an album. And he makes some of the best albums around, and I took that pretty seriously. But this is what I'm doing right now. And I will write an album. I have a lot of the songs that have been brewing in my head, but lockdown happened and I take things as they come. And right now I'm enjoying helping other people write songs, and I'm enjoying making these songs with my podcast guests that are illuminating, I think, something about their personality. They won't sell. They take me a week or two. I work my balls off. They just go into the ether. I don't know. I'm crazy, but we follow our interest. All right, people. I'm out of here. There's nothing else for me to edit into this, except that we're going to have our songwriters Zoom and talk about this. So Jenny Stabus, Jordan Friend, Lisa A, Connor O'Brien. Look out, watch your email inbox that comes along with Patreon, because we're going to get in touch and record that. All right, I'm going to play my intro as if it's an outro to give it the feeling that we just had an actual show. And Marty Mean says, when do you know you finished a song? It's like, when do I know I finished a podcast? It's 11:30 and just it's time to stop. That's actually a little bit of it. For me, it's a feeling, and I just go, oh, it's finished. I know it's weird. Most people have a harder time with that. Sometimes you just need a deadline. You know, it's different each time. We'll talk about that later. It's a great question. For now, I know I'm finished with this podcast and this live this live YouTube. Thanks for coming around, and watch out for the podcast. I've talked to some really interesting people, and I'm learning a whole lot. And I learned from you too. Okay, ending that damn stream. After we roll the intro again, he's out.